So it's often said that small business is the lifeblood of our economy, and unless small business is able to grow, then as an economy, we're not going to grow as fast as we could. That's why on the Business and Trade Committee, we've been hearing from small business about what it is they need in order to be more successful in the future, to create jobs, to pay more tax and contribute to the growth of the economy. What we heard, however, was frankly horrifying. We brought together witnesses from the tax authorities, HMRC, we brought together the police, and we brought together energy bosses to try and get to the bottom of exactly what were the barriers that were getting in the way of small business growth. And the evidence that we heard was frankly jaw-dropping. The first thing that we heard was from HMRC. So this is the person who is in charge of tax design for the tax authority of our country. We have a tax gap where people are not paying the taxes that they owe, that is now running in the tens of billions of pounds. That's money that the tax man and woman leaving on the table. What transpired is that between 3 and 4 million phone calls every year are simply not answered. This is what he had to say for himself. Why is the target 85% and not 100%?
That is the agreement we've reached with the Treasury about where we are. That is the level we are funded to.
You're not funded to answer 100% of phone calls?
No.
Per year then, how many phone calls, if you took last year's volumes, how many phone calls would go unanswered if there were 15% of calls that didn't get picked up?
It's probably sort of 3 to 4 million calls that go unanswered.
Unanswered?
Yes.
3 to 4 million
yes.
calls that go unanswered.
Yes, that's the sort of level we're talking about. Yeah.
So we then moved on to hear about energy bills. Energy bills are one of the biggest problems getting in the way of small businesses growing. Here again, we heard that frankly the system is broken. We think on the committee that energy companies frankly are charging too much, but we also heard that the way our energy market works is simply broken. The way that we set energy prices is still linked to the marginal price of gas, even though gas is only about 25% of what's needed to generate the country's electricity. Energy bosses told us that we could probably knock £2 billion a year off energy bills for the UK if we changed the way that we set the price. Here's what he had to say. Now that gas supplies, about a quarter of the UK's electricity generation, what is the logic now for tying the electricity price to the marginal price of gas?
You would have to ask somebody else. We believe it is the wrong thing to do. We believe that, for example, there's a report by the consultant Stonehaven, which we would absolutely support, that say by taking the gas assets out of the wholesale market into a strategic reserve or a regulated asset base, you can save energy customers, residential business energy customers in the UK, up to £2 billion per year. There is no reason to my mind as to why we should persist with marginal pricing where the most expensive molecule sets the price for the whole market and customers do not benefit from what is normally cheaper renewable power. The final bit of evidence was about crime and shops. This is something that I hear about a lot in my constituency. So we wanted to hear from some of the representatives of convenience stores up and down the country, along with the union that represents shop workers, and we wanted to hear what the police had to say for themselves as well. What we heard is that the cost of retail crime is now so big, it's worth about 10p in the pound of every single sale. 3/4 of shop workers have now had to deal with some kind of abuse and assault. And yet the police told us that by and large, this doesn't even feature in the top 3 or the top 5 priorities that police forces have up and down the country. This is the evidence that we heard. The stories that we have heard from businesses around the country basically paint a picture of crime being completely out of control on our high streets. Is that what your members are telling you?
It is the number one issue facing our members, both the cost of the crime, which amounts to a 10p crime tax on every single transaction. So if you added up all the cost of crime and developed by all the transactions in the convenience store sector, it comes to a 10p tax that we're all paying for every time we go to the shops. The personal impact, the human impact on people working in stores and running stores, and then this is a business and trade committee, the business impact that has in areas like recruitment, retention, colleague morale, and obviously the viability of that business faced with all those very significant costs and investment demands.
Mr. Morris, what are your members telling you about just the way things have changed over the last few years?
I think you sort of look back over the last 10 years, which is when the problems seem to tick up, really. So when around 2016, around half of our members were telling us that they were abused as part of the job.
Half of your members were telling you that they had been abused as part of
that
their
point
job.
in 2016, and that was the lower end of where we are now. So that sort of went up to 2/3 by 2019. And then the pandemic happened, and whole-scale abuse right across the sector. It went up to well over 90%. And then since the pandemic, it's come back down. And last year, the figure was 77%. But that's 77% for last year. 77% of our members were abused just as a result of going to work.
For a frontline police commander, how would you characterise how they currently now think about this as a priority?
I think the priority is coming back to the neighbourhood policing guarantee, coming back to community-style policing, because shops are an absolutely integral part of the shop of the local community. Like James said earlier, if you take a shop out of a community and you've got nowhere to cash your pension check and buy your daily paper, there's a real lack of community there without a shop. So I do think return to community policing and the neighbourhood policing guarantee has got a large part to say in that. But that obviously comes at a cost of getting those neighbourhood policing officers in the right place.
Is it by and large a top 5 issue for a local police commander?
I don't think top 5, I would say top 10.
So when you put all of this together, it's becoming pretty obvious what needs to change if we are going to help small businesses grow much faster and become more successful in the future. We'll be wrapping up these conclusions in a report that we lay to Parliament in a couple of months' time. But if you're running a small business, or if you've got views on the things that we need to put into this report, we would love to hear from you. So please just put a comment down in the comments below, or jump on to the Business and Trade Committee inquiry page and submit your evidence in. And if you like this video, then please subscribe and share it with people who you think might find it of value. Thanks very much.